Hi everyone. Thank you so much for coming to GeoSync, for attending this session. I've had some amazing conversations with you already this morning at the kiosks and over lunch, learning about how you're using GIS. I focused most of my GIS career to studying and understanding the geographic approach to planning, building, and operating networks. I'm excited to delve into this industry topic a little bit deeper today that's currently at the intersection of sustainable development and geography as we look to what this industry looks like for the future. It's sometimes easy to forget or underappreciate that networks are everywhere, and we rely on an intricate web of utility, transport, and telecom networks to sustain our daily lives and our economies. It's this vital, critical infrastructure that has enabled us to travel here today. It keeps power and water running to our homes, our businesses, our hospitals, whilst connecting us all in an increasingly digital world. And I believe that networks are inherently spatial. This industry has been using the geographic approach for decades for understanding where assets are, how to respond to outages, and how they interact with our surrounding environment and communities. This is a copy from my home collection of maps, and yes, I have a home collection of maps as a GIS professional. It's from 1924. It shows the Eastern Telegraph Company's expansion of submarine telegraph cables at the time, highlighted in red. Now, this map represents not just a technological marvel of its time and the sort of early beginnings of digital globalization, but also the way in which networks, even then, were everywhere that we looked. And that means that they interact with the environment and our communities on a global scale. Now, of course, we've come a long way in 100 years, and so have our maps and our communication systems. But networks will always have what I like to call geospatial responsibility. That is, these organizations cannot manage this infrastructure without understanding, to some degree, location. And that's especially the case as we grow and develop our cities, our neighborhoods, our nations, whilst also ensuring our collective sustainable future. Now, there are many compounding challenges that networks will need to grapple with both today and in the near future that require holistic planning. Many existing assets that make up these networks, such as cables, pipes, wires, are starting to approach end of life, and that's heightening the risk of failures and outages at the same time that demand for this infrastructure is also increasing. Understanding demand patterns and where demand is likely to be at its highest based on demographic information or smart meters, for example, is becoming more critical than ever. Networks need to know where to plan and build extra capacity without overbuilding infrastructure that then sits underutilized. The rise of decentralized energy systems as well, such as home solar panels and community microgrids, present both incredible opportunities but also challenges. Our networks are historically configured to rely on fossil fuels, so integrating wind and solar is a different kind of challenge where we need to understand, often down to the street level, where homes are producing this extra energy into the grid and plan for optimized solutions like battery storage. And on top of all of this, networks, like many industries, must prepare for an anticipated increase in extreme weather events, flooding, droughts, wildfires, that all demand resilient strategies and planning with local communities and authorities. The challenge of building infrastructure whilst also keeping up with sustainability goals requires a comprehensive approach and a fundamental rethink to how we deliver these services. In this landscape, and given their long-standing connection to geography, it's understandable that networks turn to GIS to develop deeper understandings of how we adapt in an uncertain future. In fact, what's really interesting to me is the development and growth of the geospatial sector is not just a trend, it's actually a response to the pressing needs of this industry. The global geospatial imaging market, for example, which includes remote sensing, aerial imagery, drone imagery, is actually driving this trend and is projected to expand from $2 billion USD today to almost $6 billion USD by 2030. A significant driver of this growth is corridor mapping, which focuses on capturing and mapping linear assets such as roads, railways, pipelines, and power lines. Another recent study conducted by ERUP for Infrastructure Victoria actually earlier this year examined which digital technologies will have the most significant productivity impact to infrastructure organizations by 2055. And notably, perhaps unsurprisingly for those working in GIS, geospatial was ranked among the top 5 alongside machine learning, advanced data analytics, robotics, and advanced imaging. GIS will no doubt play a crucial role in overcoming some of the industry challenges that lie ahead for networks. However, GIS should be seen as one of many vital components of a much broader strategy to planning, building, and operating our future networks. Let's think about planning a future network. There's a wealth of data available to empower holistic infrastructure plans, and we've seen some examples this morning. Consumption patterns, demographics, environment, terrain data, flood risk, biodiversity, exposed risk to climate change. Geospatial data can enable networks to ask the critical questions with the utmost confidence of getting those plans right first time. How might the construction of a new railway line change flood dynamics in a surrounding community? How might the plan of a new transmission line pose to sensitive ecosystems? How can we plan infrastructure that is both cost-effective but also respectful to the delicate balance of biodiversity and cultural heritage? But is this geospatial data in the hands of the right people? Do they have access to it? Is it accurate? Is it up to date? And how do we know that we're not simply gathering data, but we're actually turning that data into actionable insight? GIS can take networks from a series of isolated choices into a cohesive network plan. But this involves unlocking geospatial data from our departments, local authorities, government agencies, and then choosing that data wisely. And once we've planned for our network of the future, how are we going to build it and construct it? This phase often requires seamless collaboration between multiple teams, and we've seen examples of that in some of our client demonstrations this morning. We're having to bring in engineers, contractors, and field crews to be informed and aligned on the same plan from the very outset. And we're using integrated technologies like GIS, BIM, and CAD to be able to do that. And once we've brought that data in and we're aligning everyone on the same plan, we're using dashboards to track KPIs as a shared source of truth with teams. And we're also mapping what the community feels like and their sentiment of these plans. Now, these tools have some incredible success stories globally. I've seen many of them in person throughout my work with network organizations. But the examples that I've seen that have been most successful are from organizations that understood the importance of data exchange processes between each of those teams, between CAD, between GIS. And once we've built the network of the future. We turn to operating it. This is the critical phase of operating our new networks, where we start to leverage the full potential of GIS as a single point of truth, a dynamic digital twin that reflects real-world behavior. Here, real-time data is streaming in from a variety of sources: smart meters, IoT devices, customer calls, emergency service reports, live traffic, live weather. Networks now have the means to act swiftly and holistically to unplanned events, whilst also keeping public informed of the expected impact. We're also seeing tools like utility network, equipping networks to play out and predict emergency response scenarios, such as how many customers will be impacted by a burst water main. What will be the impact of a major network node going down from an extreme weather event? We're also preventing events from happening on the network, and we're going to see an incredible demonstration after this on just that. We're using remote sensing to inspect our assets, keep them clear of vegetation, keep them clear of hazards so that they remain functional. But again, to pull all of this off, networks of the future will need to prioritize data as value, system integration as critical for collaboration, and also well-equipped teams with the right knowledge and the skills as fundamental to success. So for your own organizations, when you look at some of the themes appearing on screen here, where do you stand? To unlock geospatial technology, we need to consider how GIS interacts across the whole network lifecycle, from planning to building to operating. But how do you stack up for data governance? Is the importance of high-quality spatial data understood by everyone in your organization? It's not simply enough to gather data. Are you critically assessing whether that data is generating meaningful insight, or rather sat underutilized in what we now call dark data? How about your people? You might have some incredible geospatial solutions, but are your staff equipped with the right skills to be able to interpret that information? Are the solutions intuitive to use? Have you placed as much importance on user experience as you have on the number of layers in your map? And critically, probably one of the most common patterns that I want to encourage in this industry is making GIS a part of the IT conversation, elevating GIS to be a part of those conversations. Is GIS considered as a tier 1 critical tool for when there's disaster response or downtime in your digital systems? We know that when we bring our digital systems together, we can start to unlock better utilization of information across the organization and actually drive that data-led decision-making. And finally, are we open to emerging technologies like AI, machine learning, and fostering a culture of creativity and innovation that will future-proof our digital systems? It starts with a geospatial strategy. Networks of the future will need to consider how geospatial data, people, platform, and processes come together to unlock the full potential of geospatial technology. And as we reflect on our journey from planning to building to operating networks, it's evident we have indeed come a long way, and GIS has matured a lot. It's sometimes difficult to keep up with the amount of new things that come out every year. But it's people like you who are continuing to drive this innovation. So whether you work in this industry or not, it's also a valuable story to tell for digital transformation. An over-reliance on technology without human oversight is a cautionary tale that we hear a lot in today's digital landscape. We can't do everything, but we can think about GIS and our geospatial data as a process, as a part of our digital and IT landscapes, and as a part of our people that really underpin all of this, the ideas and the innovation that drives all of this success. You might just be getting started on your GIS journey. You're a seasoned professional, a network operator, or this message simply resonated with you and what you're trying to achieve with GIS in a complex tech landscape in your teams. You might think, where to from here? There is incredible resources online. We have the well-architectured framework from Esri, some technical best practices, but we also talk about the path to geospatial excellence and the foundational elements that make up a geospatial strategy. So I really encourage you to go and have a look. But if you also want to talk to myself and my team, we're here as well. We're just in the kiosk as you turn left outside of these doors. So please come and have a chat. We're excited to understand how you're talking about GIS in your organizations. Until then, thank you so much for listening, and I'll pass over to Shane from APA.